All right, so we've got the final day of our program design lessons here. So this is going to be really taking everything that we've talked about until now and putting it together. You know, we sort of built the different sections. You know, we did the core balance reactive section, the movement prep, you know, the SAQ section, the warm up. And then resistance, but we really haven't broken it down into like individual phases, and we haven't really talked about like the numbers. And so, you know, you guys know, I always say this, like I'm not a huge fan of memorization, but you do have to have like all the numbers memorized just in case they ask you any of that on your test. Like you'll see in today's homework, because homework 4 is going out today, you know, you'll see a lot of questions that are like, you know, experts or how many repetitions do you generally recommend for youths, or like how many sets per, you know, is for muscular strength, and which level is the power OPT model, and then, you know, how many training levels, how many phases, you know, questions like that that are like very much like the answers are going to be like 1, 2, or, you know, 12 to 20, you know, things like that. There's going to be a lot of number based questions. So we do want to have that memorized. We do want to know, you know, how to pick the right exercises and the right level and stuff. But that's sort of the overall approach to program design. And so got a lot to get through. So the idea here is that, you know, NASM has created this OPT model, right? Like this this staircase that is supposed to take like all the complexities of, you know, program design, which is pretty complex. I mean, you think about like, you know, picking the right, like, you know, picking the right exercises and the right tempos and the correct reps and sets and things like that. When you're doing stuff like that, you know, you have to consider like what the physiologic sort of outcomes of those sets are, the physiologic adaptations of those reps, you know, like things like that. When you consider those things, you know, that is that's a lot of work. You know, you're like, okay, I want to develop my client's maximum strength. So what do I need to know about maximum strength? Well, it's all about motor unit recruitment and motor unit firing rate. How do I increase motor unit firing rate and recruitment? Oh, I'll try to lift it at an explosive tempo. Okay, that'll be really good for max strength. Then you're like, all right, well, now I need to make sure that I'm lifting you know, heavy enough to get that maximal motor unit recruitment, which means probably somewhere between 85, you know, like there's just so much you would have to consider every single time. This kind of takes all that information and breaks it down into a system that makes it very easy for you to apply these physiologic principles to your client without really having to kind of go back and consider every physiology lesson you've ever taken, you know? So it's a very practical, very systematic, you know, it also builds upon itself and periodized way of approaching program design. And so today our goal is to really break down the entire OPT model and all of its rules so that we can effectively integrate that into our, you know, programs for our clients. So we're splitting the OPT model into 3 levels, right? If we look at it, you know, if we're looking at the OPT model, we've got 3 different levels here. We've got the stabilization level, the strength level. God, that's driving me crazy, and I just don't know why it keeps happening. It's been happening for the last couple of days. Every time I open up a picture, it just closes it. I don't know what that glitch is. It's driving me nuts. So we can see the stabilization level, you know, that is going to be our foundation for everything, right? That's where we're going to start our clients. It's all about learning how to move. And then the strength level is all about how to move for greater amounts of force, because, you know, thus strength. And then power is all about like rate of force production. So those are our 3 main levels. And then those levels are going to have at least one, but they may have more phases within them, because strength in particular, you can see there's sort of like different versions of strength. There's, you know, the high rep strength, the medium rep strength, and the low rep strength. All of them are all about increased force production. Make no mistake about it. With maximum strength being like the true, like the truest version of like force production and strength, with hypertrophy right behind it, and strength endurance kind of being like, you know, blending our way out of stabilization. Which makes sense again, because the idea behind the OPT model is that it's systematic, right? Like you are building a foundation and then you are building upon that foundation as you go up, you know? Um, we're setting the foundation down so that we can put the walls up and eventually put the roof on, you know, like of our weight training house here. So stabilization level, obviously very, very important for youth clients, but really important for anybody. The idea here is that like the way we are modifying intensity is based on whatever makes it harder for our client to learn these specific movement patterns. Now, I will say I like to break down movement patterns personally into 5 key categories. And I've actually seen charts like this where other, you know, this is very much like other people's approach to program design, but I really like it. Let's see here. Key movement. I can find this, a picture of what I'm looking for here. Not quite. This is really close to what I'm looking for. There's NASM's stuff. Not quite finding what I was looking for, but you can kind of see, like, if we break down the kind of key movements that you're going to make, you know, for your lower body, it's going to be things like squats and hinges and lunges. For the upper body, it's going to be like a horizontal press, a horizontal pull, a vertical press, and a vertical pull, with your core doing flexion. It should have extension on here as well. Flexion, stabilization, and rotation. And I would say extension is a big part of the core. I mean, you're going to get that from like hinging, but like that should definitely be on here as well. And if you think about, like, those are sort of our key movements, those aspects of things that we want to be able to like cover with our client. You know, working on like our strength, you're going to sort of pick like a primary movement for each of these sort of major categories here. You know, for the lower body, it's going to be some variation on the squat, and then some variation on like a deadlift for the hinging, and some variation of a step up or a lunge. Upper body horizontal presses, that's usually some variation of a chest pressing version, you know, whether it's a cable chest press or a bench press, or, you know, a medicine ball chest pass. So all of these things could apply to stabilization, strength, and power versions, you know, which is just one more thing that I like to kind of consider. But when we're considering the stabilization level, if we're looking at establishing those proper movement patterns, we definitely want to teach our clients how to do all of these sort of like key movements. And we want to make sure that we are, you know, exposing them to difficult versions by making the exercises more unstable. The more that you can do that, like the more unstable you can make the exercise and then still have your client control it, it means that like when we go do the strength level later on, you know, it's going to be very easy for them to recruit the muscles the way that they're supposed to. And that's the whole idea behind it, right? Like if you can do a single leg squat, you can definitely do a, like properly, you can definitely do a regular squat properly, right? So the stabilization level is going to be the foundation for all of our other training levels. And it only consists of one phase, right? And that phase is stabilization endurance. We usually just shorten that and call it stabilization as well. But stabilization endurance is going to use low loads in a very unstable environment to develop our muscle and joint stability, right? So again, it's our foundation. We are usually going with high repetitions here because there's sort of 2 parts to this, right? Like conceptually, we just talked about how it's important to establish movement patterns. So do you think you could establish movement patterns and really teach a body how to do things if you did like 6 reps? Probably not, right? Like that's not very much exposure to learning how to do something. Like imagine if you like, you know, imagine if someone's like, all right, we're going to have you practice the guitar today, and you know, you can practice this song 6 times. And then, you know, we'll put you in front of an audience tomorrow, you know, like you're like, I'm going to need a little bit more exposure to that, you know, in order to kind of get better at it. And that's where like, yeah, we are going to use like high repetitions. We're going to use a high number of repetitions for these exercises. And that's really going to have like a positive benefit on helping us teach our clients how to do things, right? If the stabilization level is all about good form and learning how to do these exercises properly, that's why we need such a high number of repetitions. So what's up, Thomas? Let's pull up the big chart.
Good morning.
All right, so I do want to take us through the big chart today, right? So we are looking at the stabilization level here. I know this doesn't exactly look like specifically, this doesn't necessarily look like the OPT model does, but you can see we've got, the blue section here is stabilization, the green section in here is going to be strength, and the yellow section here is power. And then within strength, we've got sort of three different things. Oh, I just realized, you know what I can do? Hold on. I know that, I'm sorry, I've never tried to like modify this before, but I do actually, I can make these slightly different shades of green, and that'll make it even clearer. Boop, and boop. There we go. That's a good modification that'll kind of help. All right. The rest of this is all, it's all the same for that. All right. Sorry, got struck by inspiration. All right, so let's take a look here at the stabilization level, because like I said, that's where we're going to focus, right? So when it comes to flexibility stuff, right, go back to our lesson early on in this course, right? Flexibility, we are going to focus on corrective flexibility. You want to think of like, all of these rules as sort of like tool bags. And for the record, guys, you will find these charts in your textbook. You will find this chart in your book. It's not green. Yours will be blue because this edition is blue, but that's max strength, power, there's stabilization. So here is, this is the chart for stabilization. We just took this and we sort of laid it out this way instead. So there's actually, this is going to be on page, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say 371, I think. And this will have every rule you need to have memorized, every number you need to have memorized, which is pretty much all the stuff in these first three columns here, right? So all we've done is we've sort of taken that and we've put it all on one big page here, which is the what I like to affectionately refer to as the big ass chart. So it's got every rule you guys need to have memorized in the whole book here. Yeah, it's funny. I just saw a picture. Check this out where they're purple. These are the same numbers and stuff. Like these numbers haven't actually changed in years. But this is from my edition. It was purple back in the day. This was the edition that I got certified in years and years and years ago. I don't know why that's still on the internet. That is 3 editions outdated. But anyway, so that is our sort of section there, right? So for our clients when we're writing like flexibility stuff, right, we are going to focus on corrective flexibility. We're going to use our corrective flexibility tool bag, and the tools within that tool bag are going to be foam rolling, lacrosse balls, tiger tails, things like that, any SMR technique that you have, and static stretches. Okay, so static stretches are those long duration slow stretches, and that's going to be for 1 to 3 sets of about 30 seconds on each repetition. Okay, so if we were writing that for our client, it would look something kind of like this. That's the wrong thing. That's not what I thought it was. That one. All right, so it's going to look something kind of like this, right? For the warm-up section in flexibility, you are going to choose corrective flexibility, right? And that's those things right there. And then when it comes to your cardio, you are going to focus on stage 1 cardio. So you're using your corrective flexibility tool bag. You're using your stage 1 cardio tool bag, right? Everything corresponds with 1. Stabilization is level 1, right? So we can see corrective flexibility. We can see stage 1 cardio. Now, what is stage 1 cardio? Well, you guys remember, it's the type of cardio that tool bag has only 1 tool in it, which is zone 1. Okay, so that's going to be 65% of your heart rate max up to about 75% of your heart rate max, 65 to 75, right? So there's that tool bag, right? Then for your movement prep, you're going to use your stabilization tool bag, right? So that's the core stabilization, balance stabilization, and plyometric stabilization. For core stabilization, it's going to be 1 to 4 sets, 12 to 20 repetitions at a slow tempo for 0 to 90 seconds of rest. So let's take this and sort of practice this in a version like, let's use this as like a template, right? So this is our, we'll delete this and we'll say our client's name is template stabilization rules, right? So imagine like, this isn't going to have exercises in it. It's just going to have like what is allowed to kind of fit in these slots. So in this warm-up section, I'm going to pick SMR, and I'm probably going to do, probably like between 1 and 3 exercises, right? I don't have to pick any more than that. And then I'm going to follow that up with static stretches for, probably 1 to 3 exercises as well, right? And then for my sets, I go back to my little chart here. I'm gonna pick 1 to 3 sets, right? And my duration is gonna be 30 seconds, right? Now, for my warm up at the end, I need to do a little bit of cardio to kind of get the blood flowing and really get my clients like heart rate up just a little bit to sort of prep them for that exercise. So I'm going to say like cardio, and that's going to be any equipment, not necessary, any appropriate equipment. Right, and we'll do 1 set of that, and it's like anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes, and that's usually around 50% heart rate max for warm-ups. That's not even getting into around like 50 to 60% actually is appropriate for warm-ups. You don't actually have to get into zone 1. But if you did do cardio, right? And I'll just go sort of like make a little fake cardio section here. So we'll kind of delete these extra cells, make us a little space here, paste that down, and we'll say cardio, right? Well, what that's going to be is like cardio, equipment, 1 set, center that, 1 set, and then duration is going to be probably between 20 to 30 minutes. And that's going to be at zone 1, 65 to 75% heart rate max. Okay. And there you go. That is that is how we do that, right? So there's our little cardio section so far. Now for the core, balance, and reactive sections, right? Well, we're going to choose core, stabilization exercises. We're going to choose core, balance stabilization exercises. And we're going to choose reactive stabilization exercises. Okay, so our rules for that, if we go here, that's going to be for the core stabilization stuff, 1 to 4 sets, right? That's going to be 12 to 20 repetitions. For our tempo, that's going to be listed out as slow, right? Now, slow represents sort of like a 4-2-1 tempo, but honestly, guys, most core, you guys will remember what makes something a core stabilization exercise? It's one that doesn't move the spine. So because there's very limited movement here, chances are it'll be like slow or even isometric in nature. Then our rest is going to be 0 to 90 seconds of rest. Okay. So coaching tip here, we'll put in, these are core, little to no movement of the spine. That's what makes something a core stabilization exercise. Now for balance stuff, we're going to go with 1 to 3 sets. That's going to be 12 to 20 reps or 6 to 10 each. I need to modify this now. That'll work. Our tempo here is also going to be listed as slow. And that's going to be 0 to 90 seconds of rest. And that's little to no movement of the balance leg, right? And then for our reactive stabilization exercise, that is also going to be 1 to 3 sets. This is only going to be 5 to 8 repetitions. So the reps are actually pretty low here. So 5 to 8 reps. And then our tempo is a 3 to 5 second hold on landing, right? 0 to 90 seconds of rest and little to no movement upon landing. And there we go. And that is the sort of movement prep rules that your client will have to follow in phase 1. So we'll just say this is like January 1st, 2021. Goal is stabilization endurance. Oh my God, what buttons did I hit? That was the button I hit. Got it. All right, so now for speed, agility, and quickness, right? Now for your speed, agility, and quickness, for clients in the stabilization level, our rules are a little bit different, right? We're going to tap into our stabilization tool bag here, which is not a very big tool bag. It's really just going to be exercises that involve limited horizontal inertia and limited unpredictability. So that's going to be about 1 to 2 sets of 2 to 3 repetitions at a moderate tempo. You're probably going to pick between 1 and 3 exercises here. So you're probably going to pick between 1 and 3 speed exercises primarily, right? So really just focusing on like speed ladders or a 40-yard sprint, stuff that really doesn't like a left test isn't so bad. Like you guys remember the left test, right? That's the one where, you know, your client sprints and then they backpedal, and then they side shuffle, and then they karaoke, and then they karaoke, and then they sprint. Where the heck? I can't believe I can't find like a good thing there. Well, I'm so passionate about the video. Oh my God, NASM finally put up a video on how to do the left. No, they didn't. Nope, never mind. Oh, it's these guys. I hate this video because they just this guy goes to the pace of a snail. So it's a sprint, it's a back pedal, it's a side shuffle, right? This is the left test, and this is really good, but it's primarily considered to be an agility drill. And the reason it's considered an agility drill is there's just too much directional change. But let's say you want to get better at these particular movements. You want to get better at sprinting, you want to get better at side shuffling. Well, what if you were to just do this and lay it out on a football field and put a cone every 10 yards? And it's like, all right, you're going to sprint 10 yards to the first cone, turn to the side shuffle 10 yards to the next cone, turn to the side again, side shuffle 10 more yards, turn back around, karaoke. If you just traveled your client in one straight line, so you took the left test and you just stretched it out like that, suddenly you get to get better at all those exercises, but now it's a little bit more appropriate for your client in the stabilization level because they get to carry their momentum in one straight line rather than having to worry about directional change. And so that makes it a lot safer for a client who might not necessarily be ready for something like that, right? You know, if I saw my client move as fast as the guy in that video does, I'd be like, all right, we're not worrying about directional change. I'm not sure you're ready for directional change. So that is going to be exercises that involve limited horizontal inertia. So, you know, not very much agility. And then your client should know exactly what's coming. There shouldn't be any quickness involved. So this is going to be for 1 to 2 sets, 2 to 3 repetitions. Our tempo is going to be moderate. You know, yes, it's a speed exercise, but like it doesn't have to be at, you know, maximum intensities. They're really kind of working on learning how to do a movement first. 0 to 90 seconds of rest. And for the coaching tip, we'll say exercises that involve limited horizontal inertia and limited unpredictability, right? AKA speed drills. Primarily, right? And I'm going to go ahead and delete these extra ones. So you're probably going to pick 1 to 3 of those for your client in the stabilization side of things. Now, let's say your client is in the resistance section. This is sort of our meat and potatoes, right? This is really sort of the main section that we consider here, right? So we've got a lot of different body parts that we're going to choose from. We've got sort of 7 key categories here, right? If we go to, if we go to the exercise checklists, right? Those lists of all the exercises that are in your textbook. That is going to be, where is it? You've got, if you scroll down here, you can see we've got total body exercises, chest, back, shoulders, biceps, triceps, and legs, right? So we'll go ahead and put that up here. So we're going to say total body stabilization exercises. We'll say chest stabilization exercises. We'll say back stabilization. We'll say shoulder. Bicep. Tricep. And finally, leg. All right, so there we go. All right, and for all of these, and any of those are appropriate. All of those are appropriate, right? So we are going to do somewhere between 1 and 3 sets. And we're going to do 12 to 20 reps for everything. Why am I typing all these up? Our tempo is going to be slow, or 4-2-1. That's what's going to be sort of most appropriate for our client there. And then that's going to be 0 to 90 seconds of rest for everybody. Right. So now, under the coaching tips here, we're going to choose unstable versions of all these like body parts, right? That's what makes them stabilization exercises. But I will say this, when it comes to your training volume, now this is not in your textbook. I would love to put this in here, but today I'm really only going to keep NASM stuff. Remember, overall training volume, again, you're not going to be tested on this. You're not going to find this in NASA materials because it's not their research. But Thomas says, do either of you remember how much training volume is considered to be most effective every week? This is just not NASM stuff. You don't need to know this for your test, but I have mentioned it before. Do you guys remember?
Oh, no, I can't recall.
It's a little tough. It's been mentioned in some materials that I've kind of shown in class. The thing that's really coming out big nowadays that, thanks to like researchers like Greg Nuckols and Brad Schoenfeld and Thomas Krieger, is those are kind of like the big guys. They're the kind of the and Brett Contreras. Those are like the really big players when it comes to like exercise physiology right now in the world. You are going to choose between 10 and 20 sets per body part per week. So that doesn't really apply to total body stuff. That kind of throws everything off. But you think about like chest stabilization exercises, if you pick 1 to 2 of those exercises and you do it 2 to 3 days per week for the prescribed number of sets here, which we see as 1 to 3, let's say you did 3, right? If you pick 2 chest exercises on Monday and 1 chest exercise on Wednesday and 1 chest exercise on Friday in your routine, and that's how you're lifting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, well, there you go, right? That's 3, 6, 9, 12 sets over the course of the week. That's well within 10 to 20. So that's sort of what we see for optimal growth. if I were going to put something in the coaching tips for this section, that's what I would put. That's what I would put there. But I don't want to put that in there because it's not a NASM rule, and we're trying to keep this, to be all the NASM style stuff today. That's driving me a little crazy. So for our cool down, it's basically exactly the same, except that we're going to flip our cardio around, and it's going to be, the exact same concept. And then we're just going to do sort of that stabilization version. So any questions on the stabilization stuff, guys? Does any of this do you have any questions on how this is working? All this makes sense to you? Because these are the things that you want to make sure you have it pretty clear on your test. You know what I mean?
Yes, makes sense.
So, when what we want to see, like, they're not going to ask you the question I just asked you, that little, that pop quiz of how many sets per week. That's like I said, it's not an asking thing. But you will get questions that are like, which of the following exercises are most appropriate for a client in the stabilization level? And it might be like a single leg balance with reach, a single leg squat touchdown, a box jump to stabilization, or all of the above, right? There's your 4 options. There's your multiple choice question. It's the first one, right? Single leg balance with reach. It is little to no movement. And so that's how, you're really that's how they're gonna kind of break this down here. So I'm gonna save this. I've actually never laid this out quite like this before, so I'm gonna save this and then upload. This is a sort of new handout for you guys. Let's put this on the cover here. Stabilization. Right, that works. Okay. So you guys both feel really confident on stabilization. Let's go ahead and move into strength. We got 5 phases to get through here. So, so the strength level, right? As a level, it's all about force production. That's really our big thing here, right? This builds on the foundation of stabilization. And really the idea here is that we're really just trying to lift heavier weights, That's what's kind of funny is like, it's like the stabilization level. It's like, what does it do? It's like, oh, it gives you proprioception and neuromuscular efficiency. What does the strength level do? Makes you stronger. Like it's just like kind of in the name. That's really the idea, right? Like this is, as a raw principle, it's just all about force production. How much weight can you lift? 100 pounds? Let's make that 110. Little things like that. So the idea here is that we are increasing our load bearing capabilities of our muscles, our tendons, our ligaments, our joints, whatever. We're going to do this through motor unit recruitment. Remember, go back to the very beginning, well, pretty early on in this sort of mod, right? We got to the nervous system and we talked about how like a motor unit is like a neuron and then all the little muscle fibers that it's going to zap, right? The more of those neurons that you can recruit, the more of those muscle fibers, thousands of motor units simultaneously, all of those fibers are going to contract. That's going to be a stronger person. Squat University just posted up a really cool video yesterday. Let me see if I can find it. Squat University. Yeah, check this out. Look at this guy here. This guy weighs 130 pounds and he is deadlifting 530 pounds. And watch him do it.
Being bigger. Here's what Jordan Seif, who deadlifted 530 pounds at 130 body weight, had to say on a recent podcast episode.
It looks pretty clean. I mean, it's a sumo deadlift, but like pretty freaking good, right? That is someone who is not necessarily the biggest guy in the world, but he's putting up the biggest freaking weights, like, what is that? Like, yeah, it's 4 times his body weight. That's pretty freaking impressive, If that were me, Good Lord. I would have to deadlift 680 pounds, and I promise you I cannot do that. Really, really kind of impressive stuff there. But that's the idea. Like he goes on in the video to kind of talk about the fact that like it's training your nervous system that gives you that maximal strength. So motor unit recruitment, motor unit synchronization, and motor unit firing rate. This is also through increasing your strength. We're going to increase our total training volume, which is absolutely going to be huge in this hypertrophy phase. We've got massive amounts of volume there, really going for, lots of sort of muscle damage that is going to result in the most inflammation, which will hopefully turn around and result in the most muscle growth and size gains, right? And then the metabolic demand, we're further increasing that here in the strength endurance phase when it comes to like doing a high number. There's still this is the highest number of repetitions because you're doing supersets, right? Have either of you guys, I think I've asked this question before, but I can never remember the answer for specific folks. But have either of you guys ever done like drop sets in the gym?
Typically.
What's that?
Not typically.
Not typically. So it's a pretty cool training method. I will say there's no evidence that suggests that it's better than like traditional lifting, but that doesn't mean that it can't be better for you, right? Across general studies, there's no evidence that says that like drop sets are superior than traditional weight training methods. Same thing is true for like supersets or anything else. That being said, though, you guys remember how I was talking about how like I'm not a huge fan of the bro split because like hitting a muscle twice per week has been shown to be a little bit more effective. But if you've been doing that style of training for years, well, then maybe doing a bro split for a month as a way to change things up could be really effective. Throwing a drop set in your way every now and then can be a really good way to kind of shake things up and keep your body adapting. So a drop set is where, let's say I'm doing like a shoulder press, right? And I've got, let's say 20 pounds in each arm here, and I can't do any more. And so then I set those down and I grab 15 pounders and then I try to keep going as much as I can. That's one drop, right? And then if I kept going again, that'd be two. And it's a really time efficient way to sort of do things. That's the drop set method. And that is what strength endurance kind of feels like. It's not exactly the same, but it's really similar, right? It would be like, doing like a military barbell press as heavy as you can, racking it, and then grabbing dumbbells, standing on one leg and doing a single leg shoulder press. Because one is a strength movement where you are getting that increased, motor unit recruitment and synchronization and stuff, but then you are following it up with all of the stabilization stuff we did last month. So you're actually going to choose from both of those lists, which is why the stabilization endurance phase is probably the most complicated, strength endurance phase, probably the most complicated out of the whole OPT model. So that's the strength level, right? 3 individual phases here. So with youth clients, typically we're really only going to use strength endurance. That's the only phase that's really appropriate for them because it's still relatively high repetitions. And like we said, youths are, not particularly gifted with anaerobic exercise. So because strength endurance involves supersets, which by the end makes that a very high number of repetitions, that's going to be a great way to sort of increase that capacity and get into the aerobic energy system instead of the anaerobic energy system. So strength endurance, that's going to be a moderate number of sets and a moderate number of reps at a medium tempo, and you are going to superset a strength movement with a stabilization movement for the same body part or of similar biomechanic nature. Now, that doesn't mean that supersets always have to be for the same body part. Like, for instance, if we were building a hypertrophy routine, I actually really love like a good push-pull routine where like you'll actually superset maybe like a chest press with a bent over row. Arnold Schwarzenegger, that was like his favorite thing, or like a shoulder press with a lat pull down. He loved a good push-pull routine, and he loved to pair his supersets back with agonist antagonists. And that's a really effective way to train as well. but that, you know, and it is an example of a superset. You do one, you don't rest, you do the other. But a strength endurance superset has to be for the same muscle group, and it has to be strength first, stabilization second. So let's go ahead and build one of those, shall we? Strength endurance, again, increasing the load bearing capabilities while pairing using a superset stabilization exercises to further enhance that stability. So let's look at the big chart here. If our client is in strength endurance, that means that they're in the strength level, which means they're going to get active flexibility. They're going to get stage 2 cardio, core strength, balance strength, reactive strength, and then they'll get a bit of speed still and some agility, right? So you can see I put the stabilization style stuff in blue here. You can see like zone 1 is blue because that was up here, and then speed is blue. And then you can see we superset the resistance strength with resistance stabilization, and then the rules they'll be over here. So let's sort of build an example version of that. So now we're going to say strength endurance. Let's say we have a client who's going through, you know, we'll say this is like February 1st, you know, this is phase 2, and that's strength endurance now. So now we'll go ahead and delete all of this, and we'll delete. And we'll delete all of that so I can have some space here. Okay, so if we're starting with the warm-up section, right? For our warm-ups for clients who are in strength endurance, because, you know, they're in the strength level, well, they're going to get active flexibility, right? Active flexibility is going to be the tool bag that you use. What tools are in it? Foam rolling and active isolated stretches, right? So we're actually going to leave the SMR stuff that we wrote up there. We're going to pick 1 to 3 exercises for about 1 to 3 sets, 1 to 30 seconds each, right? But then we are going to do active isolated stretches instead. So we're going to go active isolated stretches, and that's going to be for 1 to 2 sets. And then you're going to do 5 to 10 repetitions. I like to put that in the duration. And then over here under the coaching tips, it's like hold each rep 1 to 2 seconds. Okay. And there we go. That's how I like to write it for my clients. I'm like, you know, do 5 and 10 reps and, you know, hold each one. Then we're going to get on the cardio, any appropriate piece of equipment, 1 set, 5 to 10 minutes, 50 to 60%, right? With the warm up doesn't change because it's not necessarily part of the workout there. But if they were doing cardio, well, now we need to sort of start introducing interval training, right? So now we are going to do the sort of interval approach here. Oh, I need to save this as, hold on 1 second. Save as. Okay. So now we're going to do cardio equipment, you know, 1 set, you know, again, 20 to 30 minutes here. And then you are going to use a blend intervals of intervals alternating between zone 1, which is 65 to 75% heart rate max, and zone 2, 76 to 85%. There we go. So that's how we're going to do this, right? You're going to do sort of an interval situation here, alternating between zones 1, zones, and just zone 2 there, right? So that's sort of it's not necessarily like high intensity interval training. It's not like HIIT training. It's really much more about like, you know, sort of medium intensity interval training. Then we look at the chart here. We can see we are going to do, and there's the little blend there. We got core strength, we got balance strength, and we got plyometric strength exercises, right? So we go back over to our template here, and we're going to say that's core strength exercises, balance strength exercises, and reactive strength exercises there. And what are our rules? Well, it's going to be 2 to 3 sets for 8 to 12 reps at a medium tempo. So really that's like a 2-0-2 tempo, right? 1-2-1-2, or maybe like 1 and then pause for 1 and then back down. Just any sort of medium tempo there. And then our rest is going to be 0 to 60 seconds of rest. So we're making that a little bit shorter. And then what did I say in the coaching tips? I keep forgetting. Oh yeah, full range of movement of the spine. So what makes something, what makes something a core strength? It's like full range of motion of the spine during the movement, right? And then for our balance strength, that's going to be 2 to 3 sets. That's going to be 8 to 12 reps. That's going to be at a medium tempo as well. 0 to 60 seconds of rest. And this is full range of motion of the balance leg. Okay. And for our reactive strength, guess what? 2 to 3 sets. And it's so close to being a pattern here, but it's just not quite the same. It's 8 to 10 reps instead. 8 to 10 reps. And then this tempo is going to be repeating, is what we're going to say. Rest period, 0 to 60 seconds. Repeating tempo upon landing. Okay. So that is a little bit of a different approach, right? Before we were holding our landings 3 to 5 seconds. Now we're getting right into the next rep there. For our speed, agility, and quickness exercises in the strength level, it's like, well, now we are incorporating a little bit of greater horizontal inertia and a little bit, but still limiting that unpredictability, right? It's like now we are sort of getting into a little bit of a directional change, like multi-directional speed, right? So you're going to pick somewhere between maybe like 1 to 3 exercises. I'll make sure I write this the same way. Actually, 1 to 3, we'll say speed / agility exercises, right? So now we can incorporate both of those things in there. That's going to be for 3 to 4 sets of 3 to 5 reps at a, now we can focus on, moving fast instead of moderate, 0 to 60 seconds of rest. So, so when I say that, what I mean by like speed / agility, it's like exercises that allow for greater horizontal inertia, but still limited unpredictability. Okay, so we're still limiting that somewhat. Now, for the resistance section, here's the thing. If you're in strength endurance, yes, total body exercises can exist. So we can do, when we get in here, we're going to now follow these rules because we're in this first phase of the strength level, right? We're only in phase 2. So you can still do total body exercises, but here's what I'll say, guys. In order to do strength endurance, you need to do supersets, right? It is really difficult. I still have never found a super terrific way to do it. To do a total body superset in strength endurance, because total body movements are usually like multi-part movements. It's like a squat plus a shoulder press. So like finding a strength version to pair with a stabilization version where both of those things are the same biomechanics and like the same exercise for both is really, really difficult. So what we'll do, but you can still do some total body strength here. So what we'll do is we'll put just total body strength exercises. We'll put that all by itself. Then we'll go over here and we're going to go with chest strength exercises. And then we're going to superset that plus chest stabilization. Okay, we're going to kind of superset those together. And then we're going to follow the same thing for our back. So back strength plus back stabilization. We are going to go with shoulder strength plus shoulder stabilization. And then we are going to go with biceps strength plus bicep stabilization. Triceps. And lastly, legs. Leg strength plus a leg stabilization. So make sure you are supersetting similar biomechanical movements here, right? So that's going to be 2 to 4 sets. And that's going to be each, right? For your reps, that's going to be 8 to 12 reps or 8 to 12 each. Our tempo is going to be 2-0-2 for our strength movements plus 4-2-1 for our stabilization movements. And rest is going to be 0 to 60 seconds rest. Right, and then for our coaching tip here, do I have anything? No. Yeah, we're gonna say, you know, perform as superset with little to no rest after the first move. Okay, and we'll just go sort of put that in all of this. Sorry, 1 second here. I want to put this in the middle. There it is. All right. And then for our cool down, we can keep that the same. We can still apply, you know, stabilization style cool down there at the end. So this one gets a little bit messy. This one's kind of complicated looking. And here's what I'll say, guys. Usually when I'm writing this for my clients, I often don't do total body unless I just do like a total body movement by itself. And then I usually just do chest, back, shoulders, and legs. I usually skip arm stuff when I'm in the strength endurance phase for most of my clients, just because like we got a lot of work to get through, and I'm trying to be as time efficient as possible, so I don't spend time on sort of the smaller muscles there. All right, that one got a little bit complicated, but any questions on strength endurance? Like I said, that's probably the most complicated OPT version, but how do you guys feel about that one?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sense this template. For the record, you also don't have to write these. If I were actually writing this, I'm going to delete this real quick. But like, if you were actually writing this in, things, let's say like the bench press is your strength movement, and then you would put it on a different line and put like the stability ball chest press over here, and then like, let's say 3 sets each. 10 reps each, 2-0-2 tempo, 4-2-1 tempo, 0 seconds of rest here, 60 seconds of rest there. That's how I'd actually write it if it were me. I find that that's easy and I usually put like a space between them, so then I would do my next one. Let's say this is like the barbell squat, and this is like a Bosu ball. So now I've got my, I would do something kind of like this. This is how I like to write it. I put just a little gap in there to kind of indicate it's like these two are paired together. These two are, not. But we've only got so much space, so I didn't do it that way. All right. So now what's kind of cool is we're going to move into hypertrophy, right? Like I said, hypertrophy, pretty rare for our youth clients, but very applicable to adults. This is where we're really going to kind of increase the training volume. Training volume is going to go up like crazy. Oh shoot, hold on, I need to split this back. What's it? 1, 2, it's gonna be 6, I think. What? Why did that split into 2 different columns? Oh, it was on there by default. Split. 1 column. 6 rows. There we go. All right. This one's going to be hypertrophy. Okay, so for hypertrophy, what's cool is we get to leave all this stuff for the most part the same. You know, the rules for strength endurance and the rules for hypertrophy are essentially identical until you get to the resistance section, right? So that's still going to be, so we're going to change this to hypertrophy. We're going to change the goal to hypertrophy. We'll say this is March 1st. Right. For the record, you don't ever, you know, I shouldn't say ever. I'm sure there's one client out there. You don't have to take your client through phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then reset. That's not how periodization has to work. Although it is an option, and I do recommend it for Sochi students because it's a great way to learn all the phases. But our warm up is the same, right? Look at how, like, you know, we're not changing any of this for hypertrophy. The only thing we're changing is the resistance box at the end. So that's still going to be 1 to 3 on the SMR. That's still going to be 1 to 2 for 5 to 10 on the active isolated stretches. Cardio is still going to be medium interval training with like 65 and 75% respectively. And then we're still going to do core strength, balance strength, and reactive strength, and all of the numbers are exactly the same. So honestly, you could keep that and the SAQ section identical for, you know, if you were taking a client through 3 months, you can keep it the same for 3 months if you wanted to. I wouldn't because it's a little boring, but you know, I'd swap some things out. But you can follow the rules, right? Maybe the first month for core strength, it's like a stability ball crunch. Next month, it's a cable crunch. And then a month after that, it's a reverse crunch, you know? And there you go. Those are all core strength exercises. And you changed it up so that your client never really got too used to any particular thing. But for the resistance section, we are either going to choose total body strength exercises, and then it's going to be the same rules that we saw earlier with the, you know, chest strength, back strength, shoulder strength, biceps, triceps, and legs again. Okay, but our volume has changed. We went from 2 to 4 sets to 3 to 5 sets, right? So that is going to be 3 to 5 for everything. And our reps have gone down. We went from 8 to 12 reps to 6 to 12. And our tempo is just the strength version, right? Before it was a little bit of strength paired up with a little bit of stabilization, where, you know, it was 202 for the strength and 421 for the stabilization. Now it's just 202. It's all by itself, you know. Rest period, 0 to 60 seconds of rest. And there we go. That's how we do hypertrophy. Hypertrophy, in my opinion, is the easiest phase to template for. It's the most basic, right? There's actually, it's kind of funny. There's a, you know, I personally don't think there's adequate time to recover, but, you know, another guy who's really popular in the sort of exercise physiology world, although I will say he's a little more fringe and he doesn't do research, he's just a famous personal trainer, is Jeff Nippard. And Jeff Nippard is a big, you know, kind of a famous like bodybuilding guy. You know, he is all about just like hypertrophic gains. That's his big thing. And he like is big on this like 5 days a week total body routines, where it's just like you're basically hitting every muscle every day. To me, that's not enough recovery. But like you could do this. Let's say you lifted weights every single day and you did it exactly like this. And you picked 3 sets for everything. That'd be 15 sets by the end of the week. That'd be 15 total body, 15 chest, because 5 days per week, 15 back, 15 shoulders. And 15 is right between that 12 to 20 range. And it is definitely hitting more than twice per week. So would that work? Yeah, maybe, don't know that I love it. Personally, I would lay it out very differently than that. I'd probably have like, again, you guys know my favorite version is sort of having an upper body day and a lower body day. So I'd have like, or actually, that's actually not true. That's my favorite for max strength. My favorite for hypertrophy, I like sort of a push-pull. I really like to have like chest and back paired together and then like shoulders and legs paired together. And then hit each of those twice per week. So, and then, I get biceps and triceps whenever I can. I'm not great with arm work. I'll be honest. Like my biggest weakness when it comes to program design, I just never spend any time working on arm work because it just doesn't have as much to do with your athleticism as the other parts of your body. Anyway, so that's hypertrophy, right? Those are all of our sort of hypertrophic rules. Again, we didn't have to change much, right? We kind of kept this the same as our strength endurance stuff in this entire section here, right? And our cool down hasn't changed since stabilization. The only thing that we changed was, we went up with the overall training volume here. If you think about like your training volume of like 2 to 4 sets, well, now it's all the way up to 3 to 5. Because our reps have sort of gone down there. Questions on hypertrophy, guys? I know that one's the simplest, but I just want to check in. Feel good about that one?
Pretty good.
Love that. So there's our hypertrophy template. Let's do max strength. Save the next one.
Next.
Okay, so max strength, guess what? We still don't have to change anything, at least for the first section, right? We can still leave the SMR inactive. We still are going to do medium interval training, core strength, balance strength, reactive strength. The reps for those don't change. Oh, I just remembered. Oh, I meant to do in the coaching tips the intensities. Crap. All right. We'll go back and fix that in a minute. All right, so we're going to keep the strength stuff here, right? Total body strength, chest strength, back strength, shoulder strength. Again, I would probably, if it was max strength, I'd probably skip biceps and triceps, and then leg strength. But now our numbers are going to change. We are going to do 4 to 6 exercises for everything, 1 to 5 reps. So the reps are going down. Oh, and this is max strength. Say this is April. That's phase 4. Okay. So 4 to 6 sets of 1 to 5 repetitions. Your tempo we're going to list as XXX. Now that means that you are trying to move very explosively, even if you're not actually moving very explosively. But you're still trying to. And then the rest is 3 to 5 minutes, right? That is some freaking rest there, Now, one thing I totally forgot to put in the coaching tips that I meant to was going to be your intensity. In max strength, you are lifting at 85 to 100% of your 1 rep max on that intensity, right? So that is something that we are going to see there that is very, very important. So we'll go ahead and put that in for all of our exercises, right? Again, if it were actually me in the real world, I have never done biceps or triceps for 85 to 100% of my 1 rep max for 1 to 5 repetitions. Your biceps and triceps are kind of slow twitch, or yeah, they're kind of slow twitch muscles in comparison to how much your big muscles are fast twitch. So I would probably apply hypertrophy rules to these if I were doing arm work in max strength. But honestly, when I'm doing max strength, I really just don't even have time for arm work. I'll usually do it on my cardio days if I ever, when I feel like doing it. But that's just me. Again, that's not going to be in your books or anything. But there we go, right? 4 to 6 sets, 1 to 5 reps, explosive on the tempo, 3 to 5 minutes of rest, and you're trying to lift at 85 to 100% of your 1 rep max. And that would be sort of our max strength approach to things. Questions on that?
No, pretty clear.
Okay, so now let me open up strength endurance actually, because that's going to be the easiest for me to transfer. All right, so now we got to move levels again, right? We got to get back into the power level here. So for the power level, right, this is all about developing speed and power, your rate of force production. You're still going to lift relatively heavy here, right? You're still going to get prime mover strength similarly to how you did in the strength level, but this is all going to be about that rate of force production. So this is going to use low reps, very similar to how the max strength phase did, but it's also going to incorporate some moderate reps for the explosive stuff. You are trying to move as fast as you can control. You should always follow a strength exercise when you're working on this, and you're making this harder by increasing the force if it's the strength movement, or the velocity and intensity if it is the power movements, right? So this one is, I said strength endurance is the most complicated. Power is also very complicated. You will sometimes hear this referred to as contrast setting. A contrast set is what a lot of other people call a NASM power set, but it is where you actually contrast something super, super heavy with something super, super light for the same body part, right? So you would do a barbell squat followed by like a squat jump. What's this picture of here? What is this? Is it a magazine? All right, I'm not gonna pay attention to that. But you would basically like put the two things together, right? So barbell squat, squat jump, bench press, clap push up, deadlift, kettlebell swing, things like that, right? That's how you're going to increase that explosiveness, because then you're sort of hitting both sides of the equation that makes power, right? Power is force multiplied by velocity. So you're giving yourself high levels of both of those things there. So we need to change our warm up. Let's see here. We'll just modify that. Yeah, we'll just modify it this time instead of deleting. So for our functional flexibility, right, you're going to choose SMR still. So that's going to stay exactly the same like it has through all the other phases. But then instead of doing active isolated stretches, or instead of doing static stretches, you're going to do dynamic stretches. Okay. So you're going to pick about 3 to 10 exercises. You're going to pick somewhere between 3 and 10 dynamic stretches instead of the others, right? You're going to do that for 1 to 2 sets, and that's going to be anywhere from 10 to 15 repetitions, right? So that's how that's going to work. For your coaching tip, you'll notice I'm actually going to delete the cardio section here because we're going to say perform as a circuit. And this can act as the cardiorespiratory warm-up. Okay, so what's kind of cool about like dynamic stretches is it's things like body weight squats, walking lunges. It's a lot of like calisthenics and things like that that are kind of drawing you through a full range of motion. One of my favorite for the chest is like a push-up into rotation, right? T push-ups are really, really a good way to kind of get warmed up there. It's very dynamic. If you do that as a circuit, it's gonna feel like your body's getting nice and warm, you know? So for our cardio stuff, it's still going to be maybe one set of like 20 to 30 minutes, but now we're going to do high intensity intervals, alternating between zone 1, that's 65 to 75%, zone 2, that's 76 to 85%, and zone 3, which is that 86 to 95% heart rate max. So now we are incorporating all 3 zones there, right? And still doing it maybe 20, 30 minutes. Now we're going to pick core power exercises, balance power exercises, and reactive power, which is like power plus power, right? For our core power, that is going to be 2 to 3 sets. For the repetitions there, that's going to be 8 to 12 reps. Our tempo, it's power, right? So it's going to be XXX. And then that's going to be 0 to 60 seconds of rest. Coaching tips, it's a full, what makes something core power? It's a full range of motion of the spine, fast, right? At functionally applicable speeds is how NASM says it, but that's going to be hard to fit in this spot. So we'll say at full range of motion of the spine, but fast, right? Then we're going to see for our balance power, 2 to 3 sets, 8 to 12 reps. And our tempo is going to be 3 to 5 second hold on landing, right? Just like we saw with reactive stabilization earlier. And then that's also 0 to 60 seconds of rest. And this is going to be our coaching tip, rapid eccentric deceleration of the balance leg. So it is a full range of motion, but it's, at functionally applicable speeds, and you are decelerating and then holding really, really fast. That's where the balance comes in. If I jumped and then landed on one leg and had to balance, right? And then for reactive power, 2 to 3 sets, 8 to 12 reps. Tempo is definitely XXX, 0 to 60 seconds of rest, as fast as possible on the tempo. This is really all about developing as much, reactive speed as possible there. Now, for our speed, agility, and quickness, we're going to choose speed/agility. And now we can start incorporating some quickness exercises there. It's going to be 3 to 5 sets this time of 3 to 5 reps. So really only a small change there. But our tempo is going to go from being fast to XXX. I honestly don't really write that for my clients. I will write maximum or maximal, where I'm like, your tempo should be, you are trying to set the freaking Olympic sprinting record here. That's really kind of the goal. Then we have got, and that's exercises that allow for maximal horizontal inertia and maximal unpredictability, right? So it's like speed and agility and quickness, as absolutely fast as you can possibly go. And this is there where we get into the resistance section. So again, we are going to apply that superset technique, right? Only this time for our, sort of total body exercise. Again, it's really difficult to pair total body with total body because it's just too much going on. So we're just going to say total body power exercises. And that is going to be anywhere from 3 to 5 sets for about 8 to 10 reps at an XXX tempo with 3 to 5 minutes of rest there. And that's somewhere between anywhere from 30 to 100% 1 rep max, right? Actually, sorry, that's not how I want to write that. Hold on. Yeah, that's gonna be 1 to 5 reps actually. 3 to 5 sets, 1 to 5 reps, and then we'll go with the 85 to 100%. So we're actually gonna we are gonna actually prioritize the strength there. That's things like a hang clean or a jerk, or a clean and jerk, any of those really explosive movements that are definitely total body all together there. Now, for the superset stuff, we're going to kill biceps and triceps because there are no such thing as single joint power exercises. So it's just going to be chest, back, shoulders, and legs. But it's going to be strength plus, instead of stabilization, it's going to be plus power. Okay. So chest strength plus chest power, back strength plus back power, shoulder strength plus shoulder power, leg strength plus leg power. And then for our reps, that's going to be 3 to 5 each. And for our reps, that is going to be 1 to 5 reps for the strength movement. Ooh. And 8 to 10 reps for the power movement. There we go, that'll work. So 1 to 5 for the strength, just like we did in max strength, and then 8 to 10 for the power. So I would do 1 to 5 bench presses followed by 8 to 10 medicine ball chest passes. And both of those would be XXX on the tempo. And this is a superset where I would take somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes of rest there. And I'm performing this as a superset with little to no rest after the first movement, right? So copying all of that and pasting that. So my example, right? If I did a bench press plus a medicine ball chest pass, right? Then if I moved on to like a pull up, like a weighted pull up with a medicine ball slam, a military press plus like a push press, right? Or a kettlebell clean and jerk. And then maybe like a barbell squat with a box jump or a deadlift plus a kettlebell swing. Anything that's like really explosive afterwards, right? And then for our intensity, that is going to be 85 to 100%, 1 rep max for your strength movements, plus 30 to 45%, 1 rep max for power, or up to 10% body weight for power. So that's one thing that's a little bit complicated. For your power, for your intensity, guys, if you're doing like traditional contrast setting, now NASM doesn't do it this way, but this is where this coaching tip is coming from. When researchers were coming up with the idea of contrast sets, they were like, well, what if we just did a bench press plus a bench press? We kept the exercise the same. We just do it like a drop set style. We strip the weight off. And what they found was that, like, let's say your 1 rep max is 100 pounds. Okay, your 1 rep max is 100 pounds. And you want to lift at the max strength version of that for 5 reps, and you want to lift at the power version of that for 10 reps. So what you're actually going to end up doing is 15 reps there, right? Generally, this would require like a trainer or a gym partner. But if you're doing 85%, you should be able to do around 5 reps, okay? So 100% is your 1 rep max. Therefore, you are going to lift 85 pounds, and you're going to do it for 5 reps. So I'd be under the bench press, and I'd be like, 1, really heavy, 2, really heavy, 3, really heavy, 4, oh my God, I'm almost tapping out. Let's see if I can get 1 more. there's my 5, right, boom. And I would rack it. And then my trainer would strip the plates off down to 30% of my 1 rep max, which I just realized is actually possible with this example, because that'd be 30 pounds and the barbell is 45. So we'll say 45 pounds because it is somewhere between 30 to 45% 1 rep. So we're going to strip it down, no weights on the bar, and I'm just going to grab the bar. I'm going to take it back down, and I'm going to do 10 super explosive bench press reps. Boom, 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 just like that. And they found that by contrast, and then take 3 to 5 minutes of rest. And they found by contrasting those two things together, you are able to, really work on your maximal power. Let's use a different example. Let's say your 1 rep max is, my 1 rep max is now, let's say 225, right? So if I can bench 2 plates, right? Well, now 85% of that is going to be 191 pounds. So we'll say 190, right? And then we'll say 30% of that is going to be 65 pounds, right? So what I would do if I were doing a superset here, I would bench press plus bench press my bench press contrast set would be 5 reps at 190 pounds plus 10 reps at 65 pounds. As a superset, 3 to 5 minutes rest between sets. So that's how we do contrast setting, that in sort of a traditional method. Now, NASM, they didn't like this approach because it wasn't clear enough that, it wasn't differentiating between like strength movements and power movements, right? You can see like we're just doing the bench press twice, and the bench press is strength movement. So it's hard to work at maximal velocities with that barbell in hand. I will say, I do like NASM's approach. I like it, but I find that this traditional method, when I'm actually trying to increase my velocity and power, I find that this version actually works better, personally. So that's the reason I kind of brought it up today. You're not going to find that in your book or anything, but that's, if you've ever wondered why like this is such a weird take, right? It's 30 to 45% of your 1 rep max. It's like, are you supposed to, if you can bench 225, are you supposed to find like a 65-pound medicine ball? No, you're not going to find that. So you just do the bench press again, but with way lighter weight. Or you do up to 10% body weight. If you are doing a medicine ball chest pass, picking a completely different exercise, how do you know which medicine ball to choose? 10% of your body weight. And there you go. So that's why those rules are the way they are. I wanted to address that because sometimes that one gets a little confusing. But that is how we are sort of going to approach the power side of the program design. And then cool down, the same for all 5 phases, right? Template. Oh, I need to change this to power. That'd be May. Phase 5. All right, let me open all these really quick so I can get the coaching intensities down. By the way, 12 to 20 reps, that corresponds to about 50 to 70% of one rep max. Save that. Strength endurance that is going to be 70 to 80%, one rep max for your strength movements, plus 50 to 70%, 1 RM for stabilization. Save that. Hypertrophy, your intensity is 75 to 85%, 1 rep max. And we start with max strength, right? Yeah. Cool. So that is all of the charts that are in your book that start on page 371. Any questions? How you guys feeling about all that? I know it's a lot of numbers. I know it's like it's a lot to have to try to like write down. It sounds like you're trying to write with me, but hopefully you're able to keep up.
So yeah, a lot of information.
I know, but again, like those are, you know, these make really great flashcards, by the way. Like you, again, I don't like memorization. I like understanding things deeply as a concept. It is my favorite way to learn information. But this is the kind of stuff where it's like, yeah, you just got to be able to fire out those numbers, because if you're going to get a multiple choice question, I said, you know, hey, Thomas, for a client who's trying to develop maximum strength, what's the appropriate intensity? 85 to 100, right? So flashcards are super, super, super helpful. You know, if you were to literally make like a flashcard that looks something kind of like this, here, we'll make like a fake flashcard. Insert table, we'll say, you know, we'll say, I don't know, 6 by 6. Right? And you just make this, let's see here, page layout. Hold on. Let's say stabilization, right? You put that on like one side, and then it would be, you know, your repetitions are 12 to 20. So on the other side of the card, it would just say stabilization level reps. And then, you know, you flip the card over and there it is, 12 to 20, right? And then you go, actually, that shouldn't say stabilization level. That should say stabilization phase. That's going to be between 8 and 12. So you would just kind of go through, I would honestly go through that big chart. You know, everybody has a copy of this by now, and just get, this is a flashcard, that's a flashcard, that's a flashcard, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, brain, 14, 21, 22, 23. You need 23 boxes, 23 flashcards. Definitely recommend doing that. It's super helpful for memorizing. All right, so I kind of got away from our notes here, but really quickly, just kind of summarizing these up, right? Hypertrophy, phase 3, further increases the load capacity from moderate to high intensity with relatively short periods of time. That's the idea here, is increasing your muscle volume. You're just trying to create as much cellular damage as possible so that you get as much inflammation as possible. My favorite way to kind of summarize the differences between max strength and hypertrophy is like, max strength makes your joints sore, and hypertrophy makes your muscles sore, you know, like sort of a difference between like power lifters who become bodybuilders. It's like, my joints feel better, my muscles feel worse, you know, because this is all about just maximum friggin' cellular damage. And that creates as much inflammation as possible, which translates to big old muscles, you know. Max strength, all about load capacity from high to maximal intensities. The idea here is that you are strengthening your nervous and muscular systems. Power level, this is really building on the foundation of strength to increase your rate of force production, just like strength was building on the foundation of stabilization. And this is going to use maximal loads paired with minimal loads in an explosive manner as possible to create maximum rate of force production. So you sort of contrast the super heavy to work on your force production with the super light to work on your velocity production. So stabilization for youths, right? Or I'm sorry, the OPT model when it comes to youth. So youths, we're going to primarily focus on phases 1, 2, and 5. Doesn't really make any sense to work on strength, on hypertrophy, because they don't really have a good capacity for muscular growth. Doesn't really make any sense to work on max strength for the same reasons. They don't have testosterone yet, right? So instead, we focus on phases 1, 2, and 5. Stabilization level, very important for our youth clients. It's how they're going to develop their proper form. And so again, we see all the rules here. Focus on stabilizing and training in an unstable environment at slow tempos for high repetitions. Strength level is important. It does enhance that motor unit recruitment, the metabolic demand. It can strengthen their body in certain ways, although they don't have that super high capacity. Generally, you're going to use strength endurance. So we are going to superset strength movements with stabilization movements. So dumbbell chest press plus medicine ball push-up, or, you know, barbell split squat with Bulgarian split squat, you know. Medium tempo for your strength movements, slow tempo for your stabilization movement, anywhere from 8 to 12 repetitions. That way it's still somewhat high reps. And then for the power, you'll notice that like we actually aren't doing the superset technique because again, youths don't have that good anaerobic capacity. So we're just doing the power movements all by themselves for our youth clients. Okay. So we're going to use low to moderate sets and reps at explosive tempos. So would you do like a bench press plus a medicine ball chest pass? No, because a bench press is way, you know, if you're going to do it, it would be lifting really, really heavy, and we don't lift heavy with youths. So instead, you would just do the medicine ball chest pass all by itself. If you did want to do the superset, you would do it at the 8 to 12 range like you did in strength endurance. So you would do 8 to 12 reps at a medium tempo, and then you would superset that with something explosive. And that's sort of if you want to do that, but you don't have to. With youths, it's really just about kind of being explosive all by itself. So when it comes to cardio training, we know that we've got to incorporate that. We already talked about that when we were sort of building our templates, but yeah, childhood obesity is growing. And so we want to make sure that, you know, we are doing cardiovascular exercise because that's going to help with cholesterol, hypertension, diabetes, all of these things. And we already talked about it when we talked about cardio, but it's going to come down to your FIT principles, your frequency. How many sessions per week are you training? That should be somewhere from 3 to 5 if it's youth. You know, because we want to get a lot of cardio because that's the kind of thing that they're going to get the most bang for their buck out of. Youths are great at cardio. For intensity, that's your level of demand. There's a lot of different ways you can calculate intensity. You could use the Borg scale. That's that 6 to 20 RPE scale that we talked about, or you could use the talk test method, you know, to determine your interval training, or you could actually get into their heart rate. But for youths, heart rate training is pretty difficult to calculate because their heart rates are already elevated. So you need different, more complicated formulas for them. So generally with kids, it's all about the Borg scale of the talk test method. So Borg scale, you know, exercise, you know, they're going to warm up somewhere between like an 11 and 12. They've got sort of the zone 1, which would be like a 13 to 14. They got zone 2, which would be like a 15 to 16. And they've got zone 3, which would be like a 17, maybe up to 19, but 17 to 18 there, with 19 and 20 being like freaking, you know, they're ready to vomit. Like I said, talk test method works really well as well. Zone 1, they can hold a conversation. Zone 2, they can talk, but it's a little uncomfortable. Zone 3, it's like almost impossible to talk. For the time on the FIT principles, the first of the 2 T's, you know, that's the length of the activity, usually about an hour a day. That's what we're aiming for. That's why the NFL has play 60, right? For type, this is where it's like, should you make a kid do a rowing machine or a treadmill or an elliptical? Honestly, none of those are really good options. Traditional cardio just doesn't work very well for kids because it is boring. Doesn't work very well for traditional adults either. Most people don't like it. So instead, doing like circuit training, like a boot camp style thing, is a little bit more fun, a little bit more engaging. It also has the benefits of strength training. Going for a run, it might be a little bit more fun if they can handle that, or chasing kids around to going for a jog, or playing games like tag, SAQ training, things like that that are really engaging and really fun. That's going to be the type that is most effective for youths. And lastly, the E that we're tacking on our FIT principles, FITTE, that's the enjoyment factor. You need to make sure that enjoyment factor is high. Otherwise, your client's not going to adhere to it. And that really does apply to kids and adults. So this is why we like circuit training so much. Lots of exercises in a row with little to no rest is going to give you the benefits of cardio training while also giving you the benefits of strength training. So what's kind of cool, guys, is you'll remember on day one, I'm actually going to go to Canvas here. You'll remember if you looked at day one on Canvas, you notice that I put 2 manuals in there. I believe I did. Oh, no, I don't think I did. Son of a... hold on one second. Let me upload that. Me from the past, screwing me over. 120. All right, there we go. All right, let's put this in there. Insert course link, files, my file, course files, handouts, 120. Programming manual. All right, so there's a programming manual located in day one. If you open that up, you'll notice that this is not actually a lesson. This is kind of like what we did today, where it's got a lot of really good example youth routines that you can literally just print these off and use them as what we call a canned workout. It's like a workout in a can. And it literally is just going to do all the work for you. It's not specific to your client. You guys know how I feel about non-specific workouts, but there you go. If you got a client who's in phase 1, well, there you go. You're going to foam roll, let's say the gastrocnemius, TFL, and lats, and then you're going to static stretch the gastrocnemius, hip flexors, and lats, right? Prone iso abs, floor bridge, single leg balance, 1 set of 10 reps at a slow tempo. 0 seconds rest, 0 seconds rest, 60. So clearly this is a circuit. And then you can see this is also a circuit, right? Modified push-up, single leg row, overhead press, ball squat, 1 set of 10 repetitions. Slow tempo for all those, 0 to 60 seconds rest. You could also optionally throw in a total body exercise in there as well. And then for your cool down, repeat the SMR and the static stretches that you did earlier. Super basic. Very simple routine, but it does have some example versions in there. And so I don't know how many examples there are, but there's a good number. And then here is like a circuit training style. You set up some stations. You got a prisoner squat station, you got a push-up station, a jumping jack station, mountain climbers, lunges, supermans, and then there's a rest station. And you run your clients through all those, and that's really fun as well. So there are some example programs in there that you guys can download those manuals, and it will have some really good versions. I will also be putting these example things that we built today in there, and I'll be putting those in the email today as well. Thomas's, any questions, guys? How you feeling?
Say no questions, feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it feels good. I mean, going over the UP model, a few times through all the sections and stuff, it gets a little easier to understand. I was just curious, the way that you went through all of it just now, like, do you have like a printed copy of that we can kind of study, or is it just the blank ones?
I can have a printed copy. Do I? No. But next time we're at Sochi, I definitely can. Yeah.
Okay. No, I was just curious, yeah, because it would be. I mean, I can always go back and watch the videos and kind of make one of my own and kind of follow that and kind of study it. But I was just curious if you already had one already done.
Yeah, well, I don't. If you remember, like upstairs on the table, I have all those little packets printed out, and they're all kind of like sitting around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like different copies of those things. The things we made today, obviously, I don't have a printed copy of those because I've never done it that way before. But I was trying to like find a way to make, each time we go through these program design classes and we do this day where it's like, I call this big ass chart day, right? Because it's fun to say. I try to make each big chart day a little bit different, like the youth one, I think we'll do this approach from now on. The senior one looks a little bit different. The sports one obviously was very different. And then like the weight loss one from last mod, this day looked a little different than it did here. So I wanted to find something that was like distinct each one. So we'll come up with we'll have a different handout. So I'll print out this so you guys can get a copy of that next time we meet up like in person and stuff. We are meeting up tomorrow in the park. But I will try to, I'm heading down to Sochi for orientation here in about a half hour to meet all the newbies that are coming in on Monday. Because Mr. Irie, you are moving, you're moving into your final mod. You're going to be my senior. So, you're going to be in your fourth mod. It'll be your last program, it'll be your last time to kind of go through all this. And Mr. Johnson, you'll be in your third mod. So, kind of fun,
Moving along.
And then we're losing Bay. Bay's heading to Motown. But yeah, so we're meeting up tomorrow. I'll bring some of those handouts tomorrow, Thomas, so you can get a copy of those. You want the big chart and you want some blank OPT templates, and then I'll print the versions we got here. And then you said you were coming in the morning. Thomas Irie, are you coming to the morning tomorrow? I know.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to make it the morning. I have like a late shift tomorrow, so it's kind of like right in the middle of both of them. I couldn't get the day off.
Ooh, that sucks. So you get what time's your shift?
It's 9 to 6, so it's like literally right like on class.
Okay, that sucks. All right, well, we'll try to find a time where I can get you the printed versions of those things. We'll try to figure that out at some point.
I'll see what days I'm off next week. I don't know if it's gonna, I mean, maybe you can just leave it like somewhere I can go to LA and grab it or something.
Well, next week, let's see. We're starting our next class on Monday. Next class starts on Monday. So that's day one. It's a 12-day class. That's day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll be meeting up again on the 27th, Monday the 27th. That's our next meetup.
Okay.
So maybe you can plan to pick them up then.
Yeah. I'll just make sure this time that I get it off.
Yeah. Talk to your boss.
Well.
All right, guys. I'll let you out of here, and I'll see you guys. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, Thomas.